Ciao and welcome back to my channel. As you may have noticed, we are in a sort of lockdown again. That's not really called lockdown, but has a lot of similar traits to the lockdown that we experienced at the beginning of the year. And there are many people that have asked me some tips or suggestions on how to overcome this moment and not just survive, but also thrive in it. And you know what the problem is? The problem is that a lot of people just feel a bit lost. What happens that there's fear of what will happen, there's the unknown that we never like exploring, there is the fact that a lot of the things that we were used to doing in a certain way, we're not doing them anymore, the fact that we're getting into winter time and that doesn't help a lot. So what happens is that there's a lot of discouragement that I've seen in a lot of the people that maybe faced the first lockdown with a positive mindset. Now it's like, no, again. And the energy that people have in facing it is not as strong as the one that I saw at the beginning of the year. So if you feel at times in the same way, so maybe part of you wants to face the lockdown in a certain way, but the other side is a bit discouraged, then keep watching, because today I'm going to tell you one of the areas that we need to focus on in order to not just survive during these months, because surviving is never enough for us as human beings, but to really thrive and create the life that you want. And to explain what this area is, today I'm going to use the example of a very good friend of mine that today came to see me, and she was in a very bad mood. She was tired, she was a bit anxious about the whole situation, and you know when you just are having a very bad day and you don't really know why, but it's just going like that. Well, she was in that situation. At a certain point I asked her, okay, but what triggered this exactly? When she thought about it, what came to mind was one specific situation that had started the whole flow of emotions. And it was a situation related to some demands that her parents had for her today, and a lot of things that they asked her to take care of all at once, messing up with her plans and a series of things. The interesting aspect though is that one thing that in a normal context, in a normal environment would have been like a small thing that she is perfectly able to deal with and she would have managed easily, today became the trigger for a snowball effect that became bigger and bigger and bigger until her emotional state was really upset, but really upset. I hardly ever see her like that. So why? Because during lockdown or anything that's similar to a lockdown, there's a lot of situations that are different from usual, and there are certain things that we need to mind and pay attention to on a different level, especially in relation to how affected we are by external situations. What do I mean by this? That it's a moment in which we scroll Instagram and we see a lot of negativity. We look at TV and again, a lot of bad news, a lot of hate, a lot of anger that we just receive from there. We talk with friends and a lot of them have very negative situations that they're talking about. And then maybe in this case also our parents or people that we love immensely, that we care for, add on to all of this, and we start being much more affected by negativity than usual. So what happens? That we automatically, without realizing it, become like sponges and we start absorbing everything that comes from the outside, being affected by it. Whether people are consciously affecting us or not, we just feel it all on ourselves, and that's why we burst out at a certain point, because we can't hold it in anymore. So what I want to see today is how to face a different kind of communication, different kind of reactions that we can have, and interactions that we can have throughout the day, how to recognize where we are and which kind of questions to ask ourselves in order to get to a different stage, so that we can have the tools we need to face interactions also in a moment like this one, in which everything is much more subtle. In order to explain this, I'm going to start from a Greek word, which is pathos. And pathos is a word that we hear a lot, and it means to feel very strongly up to the point of suffering as well. And this is the root of a series of words that we know very well that will help us understand 4 different stages that we have. And these words are antipathy, apathy, sympathy, and empathy. Ever heard of them? Yes. So these are 4 kind of reactions that we can have whenever someone tells us something. And today we're going to see how to recognize them and how to use them at our advantage. So let's divide these forwards. So we have the first stage. Imagine that someone comes to you and they tell you something. Maybe either they ask you for something or they share something, and the first instinct that you have inside is to say no. Okay, so there's something, you feel some resistance, you don't like it, you have that no emotion inside. That's when what I call antipathy. So anti means against, right? So basically it's when someone is telling you something, inside you just feel no. Okay, this is very important to understand because it's when we put ourselves in a fighting mode. What's the problem in this? That inside, when we put ourselves in a fighting mode, we become resistant, we become stressed. We are creating a series of bad emotions and cortisol release and adrenaline release that in a short time, if you do it for a short time, is not that bad for you, but if you keep it there, becomes really a source of damage in your body. So what we need to realize is that putting ourselves in an against mode will not help us. Now, I'll describe the other stages as well, but then we're going to see how to get out of this, because whenever we have a signal, whenever we feel a certain emotion, it's not because they are bad in themselves, but it's because they are pointing at something that we need to understand. And so after I go through all the stages, I'm going to show you also what antipathy is showing you and how you can get out of that state. The second kind of reaction that we can have is apathy. Apathy means no emotion, no suffering, no feeling, nothing, just nothing. And what is the problem with this? The problem is that we are not really asking ourselves to understand the person. We are in a moment right now in which social interactions are very important. And if when someone shares something with us, our reaction is apathy, we are just detaching ourselves from the situation. And at times we may see it as something good because I'm not suffering, so it's fine. Reality is that we are running away. If the antipathy was our fighting mode, apathy becomes our flight mode. So we are just ignoring the situation, avoiding the situation, and that's never good because it's not healthy, okay? Then we have the third option, which is sympathy. Now, comes from the word that in ancient Greek meant with, okay? And what does it mean literally then? It means suffering with someone. And this is something that a lot of people do and that we really need to distinguish from empathy, because people tend to overlap the two and not really understand when they are in one or the other. So sympathy and empathy are both coming from a yes answer to what we are hearing or saying. So it's when we ask ourselves to put ourselves in the other person's shoes. And that is fine, that's amazing, that's wonderful. What's the problem with sympathy though? That sympathy, we ask ourselves not just to put ourselves in the shoes of the other person and understand the other person, but to become the other person, to suffer as much as the other person, to feel as much as the other person. The way I see it is this. Imagine that you have someone there that's drowning. Sympathy means I jump with you and I drown with you. Okay, so it's not really helpful after all. We may feel we're being nice, we may feel we're being good because we are suffering as much as the person that we love, but we are not really being helpful. And so later we're going to see what to do in this case. And the fourth case is empathy. Empathy is, if we want to use the analogy of the person drowning, is what? N means inside. So yes, suffer, feel inside. So I am inside the shoes of the other person, but I'm not drowning with them. So what is it? If the person is drowning, I am giving my hand, so I'm understanding that they need help. I am understanding why they need help. I'm understanding how they must be feeling, but then I give my hand to help them get out of the water rather than sinking with them and drowning with them. There's a huge difference between empathizing and sympathizing, and we need to be aware of it, especially right now. So what do we need to do? Think about this. Empathy and apathy are our fight or flight response, so it's how we just want to detach ourselves from the situation. I'll tell you something if you tend to be more in the antipathy mode. Whenever someone says something that we don't agree with, in our mind there's often the automatism, which is, if I don't agree, then I need to be angry, upset, annoyed, and so on. Well, I don't believe that's the case. I believe that you can disagree, but be completely fine emotionally. They are not related. And when someone says something that creates antipathy in you, so something that you disagree with, but also that creates an emotional reaction in you, that's because what they are saying is triggering something in you. I don't know if you can see it because I have a little bit of makeup on here, but I have a scar there, okay? And when you have a scar, if I touch it, is it painful? No, I almost don't feel it. It's just like any other part of my skin, okay? So when someone says something that you don't agree with, but there is a scar in your life, so it's something that you have overcome, something that you have let go, and so on, you won't be hurt, you won't be annoyed, you won't be upset. When are you upset? When this, instead of being a scar, is a wound. Because if I put my finger in my wound, then that's painful, definitely. So when you're feeling pain, when you're feeling upset, when you're feeling even just annoyed at something that someone is saying, remember that the only reason why you're annoyed is that what they're saying is touching a wound that you have that hasn't become a scar yet. So rather than getting upset, why don't you just think, okay, if I am getting emotional about this, it's because there's a wound there that's not a scar. Instead of blaming the person that says that thing, use that as an opportunity to change the perspective that you have, change the meaning that you have about that situation, that person, that thing. And this doesn't mean that you need to agree with them. This doesn't mean that you need to love the way they have triggered that. No. But it means that every situation you can turn it at your advantage. You can use it for yourself. So whenever you feel antipathy, ask yourself, okay, what is this trigger? Why am I feeling this resistance? How can I overcome this resistance? Do I need to be upset also if I don't agree? Or can I just not agree while being perfectly happy in my life as well? Apathy is a bit different. Apathy is very tricky because when we are apathetic, we're not feeling bad, we're not feeling well. So it's like we're not feeling. So it's not that painful, it's not something that we recognize immediately. But reality is that the state of being of the human being is not apathetic, okay? When we are like that towards a situation, towards something that's happening, it's because usually we have decided to shield ourselves from something that would make us suffer or some risk that we don't want to take. So whenever you feel apathetic, so whenever you don't feel anything about a situation that you think you could be feeling something about, what you can do is to ask yourself, okay, what am I shielding myself from? What is it that I don't want to see? Why am I putting myself on a pedestal and ignoring? What am I running away from? And once you realize it, you will see that the emotion that you will feel will be completely different. You will be more connected. The third stage we said it's sympathy. And sympathy is wonderful in terms of you're a very good person and nice person in sympathizing with someone, but it's very dangerous, as we said. Because if you drown with the other person, you're not going to be able to help them, nor yourself. So what can we do? When we feel we are sympathizing, it means that we are very sensitive, we have understood the situation, we are there with them. But ask yourself this simple question. Is suffering going to help me help them more? Usually the answer will be no. You are much more helpful for others in the moment in which you have energy, in the moment in which you are in a productive state of mind, in which you can find solutions, in which you can be creative, in which you can really help. If you suffer with them, yes, you're connecting with them, but you're not helping that person. And that will not allow you to really have an impact and help the person that's drowning. Last stage, empathy. Well, empathy is amazing when we get it, but at times for some people it's a bit hard to achieve. I believe that empathy can be nurtured and developed. Of course, it takes some work. But remember something, that whenever we feel we are right and the person is wrong, so we get into either antipathy or apathy mode, we are not really asking ourselves to see the world with the eyes of the other person. I believe that, there's some time ago there was the thing online of the dress, that some people saw black and blue, and others saw golden and pink or light pink. So remember that dresses can be seen in different colors. Reality can be seen with different lenses. All of us have different lenses. All of us have different filters that we have built in years and years and years and years. So rather than judging what the other person is feeling, why don't you try to just understand? Understand, see what's good in their point of view, understand why they feel in a certain way. And this doesn't mean that you need to agree. It doesn't mean that you will need to make the same choices. But it means that you can feel why they're feeling what they're feeling. And if they're asking you for help, you are able to hand out your hand and help them to not drown. But that's something that you can do only when you ask yourself to look at the world from their eyes, from their point of view, feel what they're feeling without being sucked in as well. And this moment, like this hypothetical or very similar to lockdown, it's important that we develop empathy as much as we can, because there will be people that need our help, and if we start sympathizing with them, we'll drown with them. There will be people that express opinions that are very different from others, and if we get into an antipathy mode, we're going to fight against something that has no point of being. We're going to waste our energy there. We may tend at times to see something and just isolating ourselves from that, but this is the moment more than ever to go out of isolation emotionally and be connected with others. So let's nurture empathy and just start by asking yourself, okay, who is a person that maybe at times I felt antipathy towards and that now I want to really understand? Who is a person that I have sympathized with, but that now I really want to help by getting out of sympathy and getting into empathy? By finding already these two people, you will see that you will be one step closer. Try it and you will see that already your emotions will start being different. Of course, this is one of the aspects that affect our emotional state during lockdown. There are others, and in the following videos we're going to discuss them one by one. But start with this. Start with this. We'll talk about how to keep your energy higher, how to feel more connected to people, how to make sure that you keep your work and life balance, if we can call it like that. We're going to see all of this, but start with this, because people are our biggest resource. And when we are sucked into their negativity, into their anger, we are not able to help. So let me know how that goes. And if you want to follow the next videos, just subscribe to this channel. Leave a comment if you want. I will answer to everything. And in the description of the video, you will find all the ways to get in touch as well if you want to ask something more personal. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll see you in the next video.